I'm muted. Thank you, Freya. That was very kind of you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
As Freya mentioned, I'm Jacque Casillas. I'm the Donor Relations Manager with Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest. And we are, by some accounts, the second largest Planned Parenthood affiliate in the country. We cover 3 counties, San Diego County, Imperial County, and Riverside County, and we have 19 health centers. And we annually have provided over 300,000 patient visits. And so we're one of the big Planned Parenthood affiliates in the country, and especially in the state of California. And with the recent Roe v. Wade overturned decision, wrong decision by the Supreme Court, we are seeing an influx. And so I'm here tonight to share a little bit about the impact of the SCOTUS decision. I'm going to share, what's happening with us here locally. I'm also going to share a little bit about, reducing abortion stigma, talking a little bit about abortion, abortion, and give you some tools so that when you speak about abortion as activists, as leaders, you can do so with confidence. And I'm also going to give you ways on how you can get involved and make a difference. And then if you have questions for me, I'd be happy to take those. And then Freya or Mel, if one of you can give me a signal when I should wrap up in a couple of minutes before the Q&A, I will, because I'll just get in the zone, y'all. Okay, so the SCOTUS decision on June 24th, I think, I don't know where you are in the grieving process. It's a process, it's a cycle. I've gone through it a few times, and it's not really cyclical. You kind of jump in and jump out. I've, in the stage where I'm resolved, and I'm more than anything, recommitted to the fight for reproductive justice across the country, and not just here in the state of California. We're fortunate in the state of California, as you know, with this decision being returned to the states. We live in a state that absolutely, values a person's autonomy and is choosing to go even a step further to protect it. So I've heard that there is going to be a ballot initiative on November 8th election that will essentially codify our right to making our own personal decisions in our state constitution. And that's a really great thing. It's a really great thing because, in the case of some, astronomical change in our political landscape in the state of California, the people will have voted on a state constitutional amendment, and so the legislators cannot take that away without putting something on the ballot and us, reversing our decision, which I just can't see a future where that happens. That being said, we can't really rest on the protections of our state for 2 reasons. One, because we have people depending on us now, and as a refuge state from out of state. And in particular, our affiliate is already seeing patients from the state of Arizona. We, since June 24th, I think we've seen well over 500 patients from Arizona. And it was instant, right? As soon as the decision came down, it was instant. And the reason why it was instant is not just because the need was instant, but as soon as the SCOTUS picked up this case, we started working with our sister affiliates in Arizona to create a network and make sure that we had a system in place for patients that went to Arizona Planned Parenthood health centers seeking care, not being able to access it there, being able to have a smooth, warm transition to the Planned Parenthoods in Coachella Valley, primarily, in Coachella and Rancho Mirage, which are our 2 closest to the Arizona border. And so that was already in place. So when the decision came down from SCOTUS, there wasn't a scramble to figure out, operations. We already knew what we were going to do. So again, there's two reasons why we can't rest on our laurels. One, because people are depending on us, and two, because the protections in California are not enough. And they're not enough when we know that there is a concerted effort to not just overturn Roe v. Wade. That was step one. There is a concerted effort to ban abortions on the national level. So don't fool yourselves. They're not stopping here, and they're not stopping just at reproductive health care. I mean, we even had a Supreme Court justice signal that we should be revisiting other court cases, like marriage equality, like your own privacy and contraception. Ironically, he didn't choose other cases, but he signaled at some cases that he would like us to revisit. And so we cannot rest. We cannot think that it won't happen, because and it makes me kind of sad, to be completely honest. I did receive messages from folks on June 24th, from friends and family who said things like, I can't believe they did that. I'm in shock. And I gotta tell you, I was not in shock. This is exactly what we were fighting for in the what was it? When did Trump get elected? 2016 election. This is exactly, we knew that's the reason why Planned Parenthood got involved for the first time so heavily on the national presidential election, because Roe was on the line. And so when I hear people, unfortunately, in just now starting the grieving process about reproductive justice, it makes me a little sad, because anyway, but moving forward. So we can't rest, and no rest for the weary. We've got to move forward. We've got to continue fighting. I'll be honest, the impact of the SCOTUS decision is being felt everywhere. So here locally, we're seeing it manifest in, a higher demand for abortion access for folks coming in from out of state. We're seeing folks that need assistance in other ways, like transportation and getting access to a place to stay, because it's not that quick to drive in and turn around. And I've had really wonderful conversations with supporters saying, I'll offer my home, I can go Uber, I can pick up, and that's all really beautiful and well-intentioned. And I gotta tell you, I think it comes from the heart when people bring this up and they want to be part of assistance in this way. And I say thank you. But the best way you can help is actually supporting the system that already exists, and by donating to the specific funds, either abortion access funds, and I'll get into those at the end of this, or transportation funds. The reason why is that patients coming in from out of state are already dealing with those burdens, those hurdles. And really what they need and deserve is privacy, and to have this be a smooth process, in barring the things that are already in their way, right? So while homes are really beautiful and people want to help firsthand, we want to provide the resources in a way that allows patients the biggest flexibility possible. We're also seeing the SCOTUS impact in other ways, in the sense that we are seeing folks get tuned in to reproductive health care, either volunteering for the first time, donating for the first time, getting active in some ways. It's once you lose a thing is when you realize that you had it and how valuable it was, and you start fighting for it. So we're seeing a big activation here locally, activation across the country. We are also seeing that states, and you know this, there were several states that had trigger laws, which meant that they, in their state legislature, had passed laws banning abortion as soon as Roe v. Wade, in the case that Roe v. Wade were ever overturned. And so they had these essentially latent laws that were just sitting there waiting to be triggered, to be turned on. And then you had other states that rushed in the aftermath of the decision to enact laws that are just striking down access to abortion. The curious thing is that some of these bans will say, abortions aren't available for any exception except for the health of the mother. But here's what we know: when you limit access, you essentially take the right away. So sure, you say, until the mother's life is in danger. Well, to be honest, that's not clearly defined. Who defines, a person's life being in danger can get really hairy. And then when it reaches that point, you won't have the health centers or the practitioners that, know how to perform this procedure because they don't do it regularly, right? Or so you have in effect taken away even that alternative, or not alternative, but even that possibility. And what we're going to see, and what we've already seen, is that there's an impact on people's health when you take away, healthcare. That's just it. And what we're also seeing is that these restrictions are impacting people who are having miscarriage and need to access care in that way. And these are all things that were foreseen. We knew this. We knew exactly what this impact is, because while the anti camp has worked very, very hard to define abortion and villainize abortion as a very graphic as a very graphic procedure. What we know is that it is very safe. It is very common. 1 in 4 women before the age of 40 some odd will have an abortion in their lifetime. It is very, very common. It is very, very safe. And that, there are all sorts of reasons why people have an abortion, which leads me to the next part. So I've talked about the impact of the SCOTUS decision. I really want to equip you with some language tools about talking about abortion, because there's a lot of stigma about abortion. And especially now when abortion access has been limited through the reversal of Roe v. Wade, we really have to be unabashed supporters to reproductive health care. And so there was once a time when a Democratic leader defined and talked about abortion with this very catchy phrase. And I know you know it, right? Abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. That's how they used to say it, right? And there's a conscious decision to move away from that. And the reason is that abortions are not rare. They're very, very common, very, very common. And by attaching stigmatizing language and trying to talk about abortion in a way where you define some abortions as good and some abortions as bad, you undermine the real argument, which is it should be nobody's business but the person getting the abortion. So there is also, conversations some people have about, well, there should be an exception for this, there should be an exception for that, there should be, in case of rape, incest, health concerns for the mother. which are all really traumatic and difficult experiences to have. But it's also okay to have an abortion because you need an abortion, because you want an abortion, because it's the right decision for you. And so I really want to caution you, especially as activists who, you have influence in your community, you speak on these issues, your family and your friends turn to you, likely for political advice and to just talk about politics and talk about the issues that are plaguing our community right now. I really want to caution you and encourage you to stand up for all the people that have had this procedure, that have needed an abortion, that have gotten it, and maybe don't feel like they can say it out loud. Or, I guarantee you love someone who's had an abortion. So I just want to encourage you to be courageous in those moments and try and stay away from stigmatizing language, and really, stand up for reproductive health care and for people who need you. And that leads me to the third part of my little monologue tonight, which is how you can get involved. Listen, you can volunteer. There's always a space to volunteer. It's an election year. So you can volunteer with Planned Parenthood, or you can volunteer for a candidate that has been endorsed by Planned Parenthood. You can visit Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest Action Fund. That's the political sister organization to Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest. And you can go to voteforchoice.org. I believe it's .org. Mel, can you check that for me real quick? Thank you. It's Vote for Choice. And on there, you will get the slate of local candidates in our 3 counties that are receiving our the Planned Parenthood of the Action Fund, Planned Parenthood Action Fund of the Pacific Southwest endorsement. You'll see which candidates are endorsed. So you can donate to them, you can volunteer for them, you can volunteer for the Action Fund. That's a way to, you put it in there. Let's see. And it is .org or .com? .org. Thanks, Mel. Voteforchoice.org. So you can volunteer for those candidates. We recently endorsed, or the Action Fund recently endorsed Will Rollins. He is an Action Fund endorsed candidate. Brian, have you gone through the endorsement process? I'm not sure.
I just submitted my stuff about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
So I'm hoping it's incoming.
There we go. I work for the organization, and I too am going to go through the endorsement process. And it comes a little bit later because our filing deadlines is just a little bit later. So, so you can do that. You can volunteer for the Action Fund. You can volunteer for the nonprofit, for the healthcare side. You can volunteer for Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest. And there's, you go to planned.org. I believe that's it, Mel. Mel's gonna check it because she's amazing. And there's a volunteer, and you just, you go to one of our volunteer organizations and orientations and you volunteer for us. You can also help and donate. And there are different funds to donate. You can always donate to the organization, and we use those funds wherever they're needed. But if you want to be very specific and tailored in your donation, if you really want to help right now with folks that are seeking abortion access, we have an abortion access fund. If you want to help folks who are coming in from, which is available for not just people who are local, but also people who are in from out of California. If you want to help patients that are coming in from out of California with their transportation and their lodging, we have a fund for that. And I will put those in the chat as soon as I'm done. Yeah, donate of your time, donate of your funds, and help us combat stigmatizing language. And those are 3 easy ways to help. And always the low-hanging fruit, social media. You should be following Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest. You should be following Planned Parenthood Action Fund of the Pacific Southwest. Those are 2 really great social media platforms where you will get the latest about, going on with events and opportunities, and how to, help patients in the moment. So there you have it. Impact of SCOTUS, how to talk about abortion, and you should get comfortable with the word abortion. Say it out loud a few times if it gets stuck a little bit in your throat. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. Say it proud. Stand up for people who are having these procedures done, and how to help. And I don't have to tell this crowd, you all are registered to vote, I'm certain, and you're going to vote, I'm certain. Check out, voteforchoice.org to see which candidates are endorsed by Planned Parenthood.
Oh, well, thank you, Jacque, very,
Thank you.
very much. Thank you so much. When you talk about the grieving process, I apparently cannot get out of the anger process part of it. And for me, there's two things that really make me angry. One is, who do they think they are to take rights away from us? What do they think of us that they can take rights away from us?
Yeah.
What does that say about what they think of women, that they feel that they can take rights away from us? That's one thing that really makes me angry. But the other one is, as some people have heard me say before, I'm from that era when abortion wasn't legal for a long time. And I worked in a hospital, and we all knew who in the underground did abortions, et cetera. But I also saw the pain and the terror. I rarely share this, but I had to take a friend to an emergency room with towels between her legs because she was hemorrhaging after an abortion. And the abortion people they had to say it, and they probably will be doing it again. I don't know you. If anything happens, I don't know you. Don't mention my name. I'll never admit I've ever seen you, blah, blah, blah. So that's done. But, so my point of this is so serious to me, is because women died then. Women died, and women are going to die again. And this is not okay. And it isn't okay for all of us to act like it's okay. It is not okay. And it will never be okay. And no matter what they do legally, women are going to have abortions. As you said, Jacque, there's nothing wrong with having an abortion. The only thing is whether they're legal or illegal. And I guess the other concern I have with all the talk about travel, from also my experiences back then, it's one thing to travel to another area to get your abortion and to get care immediately after the abortion. But then what happens when you're back home and you need care? Where do you get care when you're back home? And it's those kinds of things that make me very concerned and make me very angry. So I don't know if I'm going to get over the anger phase. I'm not sure about that. But I just think there's so many things that we have to fight for ourselves and for our daughters and our granddaughters and all the future daughters,
I agree. So I don't know if the group, I feel like you're also educated on the matter. I don't know if you have any questions for me, or if there's anything else I can provide. And I'm gonna pull up the donation fund links and put them in the chat.
I think we have a link. I don't know.
Mel put up the Action Fund link, and then she put up the Pacific Southwest link, and they lead you to, you can search them and lead you to donations, but I just want them to be very explicit.
I think we have a donation. Lisa, don't we have a donation link on our Facebook page?
Yes, I may have taken that post from, it's in a post.
Okay.
But you know what? We can repost it again.
Or we could just put a new link in. So is it the bottom link that's the donation link?
And I'm pretty sure it's on our website as well.
Okay, yeah. So, right. So I guess as a group, what do you think we can do as a group to move this to move people towards voting for the right the candidates, that are pro-life. Oh my God.
Yeah, the pro reproductive justice candidate,
Right.
The pro reproductive health candidates. What can you do? It's interesting because I think as activists, you become an activist because you care about a whole lot of things, and you care enough to give your time and your attention, and you probably are the people who receive your voter guide and actually read it, and like maybe even go into people's candidate pages and like scrutinize the candidate, right? You probably rarely vote for, or ever vote for a candidate who you did no research on, right? But that's not necessarily true for a lot of people. It's not true. If you're anything like me, I've got a family who just asks me, what are your personal choices? Or they ask, what's the biggest issue? And I think in a way, we have to not become single issue voters, but absolutely make sure that the people we're voting for on this issue, the people we're voting for get this issue right? So it doesn't have to be the only thing that they get right, but boy, if they get this one wrong, you should not be voting for them, right? So we need to make sure that we're telling and the people that we know, I'm supporting this person for X, Y, and Z reasons, right? But like singularly, like litmus test, they have to be pro reproductive health care. Like,
and the other thing,
bone minimums, you have to be pro reproductive health care, and you can't waver on that. So I think we need to expect that. I think we need to vocalize it to the people that we know and love, to our own networks. It's just, when we talk about it, we are, that right now everyone's talking about influencers, right? Social media influencers and yada, 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 whatever. The reality is that we all have influence. We have influence with the people who know and trust us. We have people that we are in groups with, right? Not just this kind of group. You probably have a book club. You probably, I don't know if you play pickleball. I heard something about NPR on pickleball today, and now I'm like so intrigued. I'm going to go join a pickleball league. But you have influence over these folks who and you should be able to at some point talk about how important this is to you, why it matters to you. And when people care about you and respect you, when something matters to you, it ends up mattering to them too. So
I think you're really correct, because I have to tell you when in the primary, people were saying, who should we vote for? Who should we vote for? And, fortunately, we had an endorsement sheet that Lisa and Mel put together, a really beautiful endorsement sheet that people were able to utilize. So I think it's very helpful. So that's one of the things I think that we can do.
Yes. Yeah, but it's also the other thing, and this is the way I think of it, as like as an organizer. I feel like if you've been an organizer, you're always an organizer. Like, I was an organizer. That was my first break and roll into this world. And as an organizer, you try to come up with the path of least resistance, the shortest line between A and B. The shortest direction between A and B is a straight line, right? So what I want is to get pro reproductive health care people in these positions, to be in these positions, to make the decisions, to represent us, right? And sometimes people want to go and change, their uncle's mind, Uncle Bob from Thanksgiving, who's like always talking. You want to like, if I could just get that person, if I could just get my uncle to like recognize. And I'm gonna say something that maybe is not super popular. Like, I wouldn't spend that time on Uncle Bob.
I agree.
Instead, I would get my cousin who maybe votes every other election, right? I'd get them to be a more frequent voter. Or I'd get my friend who is just not registered or just forgot to register. They just moved and they haven't thought about it. I'd get that person to re-register. And then come the election, whether they ask it or not, I'm going to ping them and tell them, hey, this is my vote card. Just so you know, let me know. I've done a lot of research. If you have any questions, this is who I'm voting for, right? In the back of your hand. So, so when you ask, like, how do you get people, how do you convince them? I'm less about like And one, you got to have a bottom line, like you got to get this issue right. And two, it's not necessarily about convincing. We have the numbers. The majority of America believes that this is a bad decision. The majority of America did not want Roe v. Wade overturned. So we just need the majority to turn out. We just need the people who already are there to turn out. So it's not about convincing people. It's about having people just show up.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Jackie? Nora, do you have any questions? Melba?
I was just going to say, the California Proposition 1, it was numbered 1, is the right to reproductive freedom amendment to
Oh,
the
there you
state
go.
Constitution. So it's California
Number 1.
Proposition 1, right to reproductive freedom amendment, and it is on the ballot.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Mel. And I'm going to get the links up for you all.
Does anyone have any other questions for Jackie? Take advantage of her. She has a lot of knowledge. Ask her whatever you'd like to know. I guess not.
Not everything, but on this
I
subject.
think you had a lot of knowledge,
I know.
not all knowledge, a lot of knowledge. So, okay, well, thank you, Jackie.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank
It's
you.
been really nice to see you all.
Yes, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, my friends. Okay, well, I'm gonna stay on for a bit and put in some items in the chat and leave my contact information.
Okay, thank you, Jackie.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to continue the meeting.